Okay, in this video we're going to discuss how to set a trigger. So a trigger is a way to set up a gauge that it will prompt the starting of the logging, and it'll also stop the logging all automatically. So usually for the trigger, I find it useful as far as the drag racing goes to use TPS voltage. And I use TPS voltage because normally in everyday driving, you're under about half throttle. So at about half throttle, or what's indicating here at 2.49 on the screen, if I want to set this gauge up to be my trigger, you would click on the gauge. That brings up the pop-up window, and there's a selection to set as trigger. The pop-up window that appears now is the value to turn on, the trigger on value. So in this case, because it's TPS, you only have between 0 and 5 volts to work with, and I want the trigger to turn on at, we'll say, 2.5. I'm probably going to change this value for the actual logging demonstration, but for now I'm just going to leave it at 2.50. So the trigger off value is the value that if the TPS voltage exceeds 2.5 volts, the logging will start, and we're trying to set the value when we want the logging to shut off. And for the purposes of drag racing, I usually use going back to minimum throttle, or just about minimum. So usually most cars' minimum throttle position voltage is anywhere from, say, a 0.8 to a 1 point something. In Slugmobile the other day, when I was looking at it, it was 1.25. So I'm going to set the trigger off value to 1.3. So, and then done. Now you see on the upper right hand corner that the save button is still grayed out, so there's nothing there that you need to save. When we're logging with this layout and we are ready to perform a log, we'll go to Vehicle Profiles, and you can see that because it's a new installation on this tablet that I don't have a profile set up. So this will be good. We've set up our trigger already. Now we need to just set up a profile. This is the next step after you do a gauge layout anyway. So I'm going to add. When you select to add a profile, you have to first select which configuration file that you're going to use. And the configuration file is the file that's saved in the data folder as a .mpc that you see here. And that is the layout that we were just working with. So in this case, I have 3 layouts that are saved on this device. And the layout that we were last looking at was the tablet config test 3 bar, the last one. So I'm going to select that, and you can see that it populated a profile name automatically. If you would like to change the profile name in order to save it something different, I'm going to save it as similar to the configuration file, and I'm just going to say tablet profile, and I'm going to add 3 bar to it. And the reason why I'm adding 3 bar, I like to add that designation on these because I have a car that's set up for a 4 bar and I have a car that's set up for 3 bar. And if you try and log with the wrong profile, your map reading is going to be off. You can see also under profile that you have to select which ECU protocol. And in this case, if you remember from one of the earlier videos, when you're in the program settings, you can select a default ECU. If you have multiple ones, just select the one that you work with most often. And if not, if you have multiples and you're constantly switching, then just remember when you add a profile, you do have to select which protocol. In my case, the vehicle that we'll be working with for demonstration is a SMEC T1. And you can see that there's no button here to further save from the screen. I'm just going to select the backspace button on my tablet, and that's going to bring us back to the previous menu. And we'll go back into profiles by selecting vehicle profiles and see that the profile has been saved. So when we're ready to log on the vehicle, we'll use this profile. I'm going to go back to the main menu just to show you. You can see because we're not connected to the device, we're not connected to the vehicle with either the USB on the go cable and the FTDI cable to the ECU, or connected through the MPSCI link to the ECU, that these values are grayed out for logging, read, and flash. So once we're installed on the vehicle, I'll be able to demonstrate the logging. That's all for this video.